Hello, welcome to this week's Designer Diary. So, if you're a creator, then you almost certainly know about the Wizard of the Coast OGL update, which is kind of hanging over everyone. If you're not, if you're just play RPGs, then you may or may not have come across this yet. But eventually, it is going to affect everyone. So I will talk about it from my point of view today. So what the OGL did was it was written by Wizard of the Coast, and it gave people initially permission to use anything that was in their system reference document, and you could take it and extend, write your own stuff for D&D and whatever, and loads of businesses are based upon it. But the OGL isn't just about D&D and Wizard of the Coast because it was quite a neat little license that anyone could use if they wanted to encourage people to create things for their games. So now the license was kind of in three sections. The top section was for anything you actually wanted to protect. So if you had your company logo in your game, you could protect your logo, so people couldn't stick that on the front of their stuff and pretend it was official. You could put anything you wanted in this protected section, and there are some companies which take that over the top and basically say they want to say, "Oh, my game's open," but they put all the words and all the images are protected, so you can't actually use anything at all. But that's by the by. So the top section allowed you to protect some of your work. The middle section was kind of all the legalese, which gave people permission to use your content as long as it wasn't in that first section. And then the last bit was like a stack of copyright. So if you take an other open game content and built upon that, you could create a list of credits for everyone who you have used in your game, adventure, or whatever. So you could take a monster from this book and a monster from that book and a map from somewhere else, and as long as it was all OGL, you could just list the copyrights and kind of the authors in the last section. And if you created a really cool NPC who you wanted to reuse, you could put that in the product identity, and then you could release it, and anyone could take that and extend it, but your stuff's protected. So that's it. That was the basis of the OGL. Um, with the new version, um, there's kind of really three big bones as far as I'm concerned. The first one is that anything that uses the OGL, you have to submit it to Wizard of the Coast, and they have to approve it, which kind of means that they could shut down all the retro clone stuff. Because if they only want people to write for the new version of D&D, they could just deny permission for anything older than that. Which I seeing as games like Traveller and My 3 Deep and Black Spear and dozens of others have just used the OGL because it was a convenient license, and then we didn't have to employ lawyers to write licenses and things. Um, yeah, that gives them complete control over what does and doesn't get written for our games, which is simply not acceptable. The next bit is the fact that under the new OGL, when we release something under it, it the ownership of that all transfers to Wizard of the Coast. They get an automatic license to do whatever they want with it. They can stop me publishing it. They can publish it themselves. They can reprint whatever, and there's no way I can take that back. It's a complete one-way uh, door. If they gave me permission to write something and I write it and publish it, they can and have to give me 30 days notice to stop publishing anything I've written under the OGL. And then the last section is anyone that earns over $50,000 a year in OGL stuff has to submit their accounts to Wizard of the Coast, and anyone over three-quarters of a million, but that's an arbitrary number, they can change that at will, has to pay 25% royalty to Wizard of the Coast. Now, this is got creators obviously, in a bit of a panic because you've got big companies. So like Frog God Games. Oh no, I want here. They said they've even they've built warehouses, to store the books. They've got 500 products but it's all using the OGL because it was told, when it was kind of launched, it was this perpetual license that, you could build your business on it, and they have been doing it for 23 years. And you can see that they've picked out bits. That just what I've just said, the permanent right to use, their intellectual property. Wizards can sell their intellectual property, with no, where it says compensation, means that, Frog God Games would not get any, royalty off it. Um, so what this kind of means is that if this new OGL 1.1 goes through, um, all of the publishers you probably like the books of, Kobold Press, Frog God Games, Raging Swan, there's publishers big and small won't be able to sell their books anymore. And so that is going to cut, down your choice if you're uh, just a player. For me, I write lots of solo rules for games that are OGL because, the OGL license allows me to, pick over their game mechanics and things, and, get the whole spirit of the game. The game mechanics aren't copyrighted, but often the spirit of the game and the way things are done. Uh, it's because it's open gaming. I can use that and I can build my solo rules off that, and then make a solo set that, you know is meant to fit the game that it's paired up to. So it's kind of, if there's no OGL games and all the games become closed, I can't write for them. So that's a problem. If you want to, a book of, really nice random encounters, those would be using monsters, which are now become locked and they can't be used. Even as a player, GM, DM, it's going to have big, implications for you. And, if you're a publisher, then this was a nice, convenient license to use to encourage other people to use your own work. Um, and if you're a publisher, do you actually want, to have to get permission from Wizards of the Coast for every book? So basically, no one that I know. The last count I saw were 26,000 publishers that were not going to sign this agreement, and they wouldn't be using the OGL. And the repercussions of that, are, uh, there's companies like Kobold Press and, uh, Matt Colville, I think it is, and a few others are going to create their own kind of, 5e clone, using all their own words, and, then people will develop for that and not 5e and just bypass the whole thing. Um, the other, kind of ramification is kind of a whole load of legal stuff. I had something this morning about, there's kind of a class action, to prevent the changes, um, which, it's everyone's kind of contributing kind of 9, 10 pounds, what, 10, $12, or more, to a legal fund to fight Wizards. But it's also the potential damage. If people were to just sidestep and say, right, we're not going to support 5e anymore, we're going to support Kobold Press's version of the game. All these people get together, and instead of us having 5 competing versions of 5e, have one which is kind of, very broadly cross-compatible. Um, then what we you, you can just cut Wizards out of it altogether, and it's going to be really damaging to the 5e brand, I think. And the bigger the news it gets, the more damaging it's going to be. So that's it. That's the big news. So what it means for me is I've got half a dozen, probably 9, D&D adventures which are OGL, and if it means I can't sell them anymore, then yeah, I never sold D&D stuff in big numbers anyway. So I'm really not worried about that in the slightest. Um, the If I really wanted to, keep selling them, what I could do is, just upload them to the, DM's Guild, and that's not, at the moment, it's not affected by this, so that would just extend its life. The other thing I can do is once one of these other 5e related games is actually released, I can look at those rules, look at its license, and just kind of sidestep into that one, which is probably what I would do in the long run. My own system, uh, 3 Deep, never had any Wizards content in it at all. It has no relationship to 5e. It kind of borrows ideas from Steve Jackson's Car Wars, Hero System, um, Traveller. It's kind of all the games I was playing, when I was you know, teenager, all kind of ended up being merged into 3 Deep. So I am going to just strip out the OGL and then probably put in a Creative Commons, you know, attribution share alike license in the back so people can still create for it. It makes no difference to me whether it's OGL or Creative Commons. So that's it. There's If you want to search for OGL 1.1, I'm sure you will get masses of information um, on it, and none of it will be good. Okay, so thank you for watching.